Hi everyone, I'm Wallen. I'm part of the team that helped develop the English for Tagalog Speakers course. And today I'd like to share a little bit of how to use Duolingo, in particular for schools that follow the DepEd curriculum. Okay, so let's take it away. So this is what we're going to discuss today. I put 4 parts. There's an intro, how to use Duolingo, CFR alignment and what it is, and finally the DepEd curriculum alignment. Everything will be in the description, so if you want to skip to a particular part, you just have to click it and then you can just go straight there. So quick introduction, Duolingo, the most popular language learning app in the world. 500 million learners, over 30 plus languages, and it's been proven to work in academic journals. There was a paper published in 2021 or 2022 that really says that 100 hours of Duolingo is equivalent to 4 semesters at a university, and it was accepted in one of the most prestigious academic journals, I think the ACFTL journal. So it is proven to work, and it is gamified, and it is pretty fun for students, and most importantly it's free, which is great.
Duolingo is the free, fun and effective way to learn a language. With over 35 languages and interactive bite-sized lessons that keep you motivated, Duolingo is the world's #1 language learning app. Download Duolingo and start learning a language today.
So this is me. I'm Rex Wallentan. I worked as a course specialist on I am working currently on the Duolingo English for Tagalog Speakers course, and you see me sometimes on the updates, so that's me posting a few updates here and there. I worked a lot on the sequence of the skills, which words are taught when, what kinds of sentences to teach, and making sure that the course is CFR aligned, so it's taught to international standards or objectives of what is needed at certain levels. And I also did sentence formats, so certain formats, for example, English and Tagalog have different tenses. In Tagalog it's called aspects, so just to make sure that certain tenses can still be differentiated even if there's not a matching tense. So it's just a little bit of grammar stuff on the sentence formats. Okay, so these are just places where I have volunteered. So Duolingo, I joined as part of the volunteer program. I joined sometime in 2020 to help develop this course. And I volunteer in the Commission on Higher Education in the Philippines, in CHED. We recently have been able to form a technical working group called the National Global Roadmap for Competitiveness in Communication Skills, so the NRGCCS. It's quite long. And also GAIN, the Government Academe Industry Network, which really tries to connect industry, academia, and government, and make sure that our Filipino graduates and workforce is globally competitive. So these are places I volunteer, which is why this course was so much fun for me, and I found it very meaningful developing the course. And I just like to share this story of how I got here and how all these organizations helped along the way. So I did a research piece maybe in 2016 because we didn't have much international data at that point. We didn't take PISA for 15 years, so there wasn't much data, and I used the CFR, and we just saw that based on our ASEAN neighbors, there was a big decline in how proficient we thought our graduates were. And a lot of people didn't believe that study at the time. And then PISA came out 2 years later, or 2-3 three years later, instead we're ranked 79 out of 79 countries in reading. And then people said, oh my gosh, it's a big problem. So that's how, you know, my small journey started. I thought I'd stop with that paper, but here I am today. And then we presented that as GAIN. So GAIN was formed, said we should get our Filipinos more competitive. So we made a conference about it, and GAIN organized the first GAIN conference sometime in 2018. And these results were presented. And Senator Poe actually filed Senate Resolution 622 saying, let's figure out why there was this decline. This was even before the PISA stuff. CHED attended, and they also said, hey, let's, this was like 6 years later, 6 months later, and CHED said, okay, let's organize something. Chair Popoy de Vera attended the conference, and he said, hey, let's put together a workshop and figure something out. So this was in 2018. We had a 3-day conference, invited 200 universities to say, okay, what can we do about it? And we know it's a challenge, so what can we do about it? Fast forward a little bit. There is a technical working group that was recently formed in 2022. We got the resolution signed, so it's an official working group inside CHED. But as part of that roadmap we created, thank you to Attorney Mila, one of the directors at CHED. We even wrote to them and said we'd like to join the volunteer program. So CHED said we know that English is important. It helps our students become globally competitive and get jobs. So one of the directors at CHED, who also helps out with, is primarily responsible, her department's responsible for internationalization efforts at CHED, wrote and we said, let's just really try to volunteer. So she wrote a reference letter to try to help us get into the volunteer program. And I sent it to a few of the volunteers at the time, and they accepted me to join the team. And then now finally, maybe 14 months later, we got the course launched. And great, thank you to Duolingo for really helping the Philippines. This is one of the their director, marketing director in their China office actually helping us with this, and it's a whole big amazing Duolingo team who helped make this course a reality. Okay, so that's just an intro of how we got here and the amazing journey it's been, and this is how to use it. So it's available on the iOS App Store, the Google Play Store, or www.duolingo.com. There's a wiki article on how to use it, and it's fairly straightforward. You just type Duolingo on, say, Google Play, and you click download, and the whole thing just works. So that's how to start and get it installed. And then how to learn a language. There's actually a blog post on it. How to best use it. It's called the hover method. So if you see each skill here, you can just click it, and then you can do, say, a few lessons on it, and then it'll unlock the next skill. So you do the next skill, and then you keep kind of you're doing 8 skills at a time, and you hover over stuff until you get it to legendary, but you don't stick to one skill at a time. This way kind of ensures that you get a lot of practice on one skill before you kind of forget it. So it's better to do it a little bit every day. Eat one skill a little bit every day than all in one go. So the hover method is saying just hover around like 5, 6, 7 skills at a time. Do them a little bit at a time, and until you get everything perfect, and then move on to the next set of skills. So say I could do phrases first, then animals, then food, and then next day I go back, I master phrases, I master animals, I still do a bit of food, then I do the next one, transport. So the hover method is saying try to practice a little bit every day rather than just in one big chunk, so that each skill has time to stay in your brain and really like develop that skill in your brain. Duolingo for Schools is actually out. It's similar to Google Classroom. It'll allow teachers to have access to the Duolingo site and monitor their students. So there's actually a blog post on it called Duolingo for Schools, and I put this post because it's great that it's already translated in Tagalog. So there is a localization team which is not me, who translated it and made sure that Tagalog speakers could use Duolingo for Schools, and it'll be in their native language, which is Tagalog for many students. Okay, and then this is a little bit of what that dashboard looks like, and they'll be able to monitor their students there and the progress. Okay, next is CFR alignment. This is something when we were talking in CHED, we felt that it's important that the graduates are globally competitive, because now post-pandemic it is a global world, and we have 2 million Filipinos doing freelance work online, remote work online, often for foreign companies, and speaking in English. So being globally competitive is very important. And in the world of language, we tend to use one standard primarily. I mean, there's two. There's also the ACFTL standards, but those aren't as widely used. They tend to be very it's usually the United States who uses the ACFTL standards. We tend to use a lot more in the world the CFR, or some people call it CEFR. It stands for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, but it's no longer a European thing. It's now used in Asia. It's used in South America extensively. It's used in Australia extensively. So pretty much the whole world just uses it. And sometimes we even remove the word European. We just call it CFR. But it's just an international standard to describe achievement of learners of languages around the world. Where A would be beginner, A2 would be upper beginner, B1 would be intermediate, B2 would be upper intermediate, C1 would be for proficient, C2 would be kind of an expert. We did a seminar on this at CHED. It was like a 3-4 hour seminar, and I'll probably post the link down below. So if you really want to find out what it is, that would be a good workshop to attend. But generally, it's in the world of basic education, it's just outcomes. So we tend to use standards in K-12, and we said, okay, standards-based education or understanding by design means I'm gonna design my curriculum to meet these goals. So all the CFR is it's a bunch of goals. So A1 would have its particular goals, which would be like, say, basic phrases, be able to understand very simple directions. So it's just a bunch of small goals that all language learners have to do, and it's not tied down to only English. So Spain would use the CFR, and their exam would be the DELE. English has its popular English exams, which are all aligned to the CFR, such as the Duolingo English test, TOEFL, TOEIC, IELTS. Those would be used by English. The French would have they have their own. I think Korean has the TOEIC, and it's all kind of aligned to the CFR. So this is what it kind of looks like, and I just put these as reference because I think a lot of Filipinos are familiar with the IELTS test, especially when going abroad, or say the TOEFL or the TOEIC, and now there's also the Duolingo English test, which is used by a lot of students when studying abroad. So I put it here, a CFR B2. These would be kind of what every learning objective is, and then that would be equivalent to a CFR B2, or you could get a score of 90 on the Duolingo English test, a TOEFL IBT of 72, a TOEIC of 785, or an IELTS of 5.5, and those would be roughly equivalent. This is what a CFR B1 would look like. That would be a Duolingo English test score of 60, TOEFL IBT of 42, a TOEIC of 550, or an IELTS of 4. And this is kind of what the learning objectives look like on that stage. But it's not only to describe assessment, it's really primarily to describe learning objectives and what a learner can do at a particular level. So curriculum designers such as Duolingo also use the CFR to design curriculum or learning objectives. So when we say CFR aligned, we mean that this course would teach all the skills required for what an A1 learner can do. This is how it's actually used in ASEAN or ASEAN, and this is why it's very important. It was very important, that roadmap, that we say, okay, all these ASEAN countries are using the CFR in their national targets and national standards and national minimum requirements for students. So Thailand, they're saying their target is a CFR B1 for all their grade 12 students. Philippines, we started with CHED. It's a very small cohort, but the target is higher ed graduates should have B2, starting with the priority disciplines. So just the 4 most international courses, that would be business, technology, the medical fields, and teaching. And then Malaysia is saying we want a CFR B2 or C1 for university students or graduates. So it's not a European thing. It's happening in ASEAN, and when we did our research study, it's roughly, we had and this was in higher ed, around 20% would be in A2. That's actually what Malaysia uses for their grade 6 students. So a lot of our higher ed students don't make that cut, which they need, which is the B2. That's what gets them the job.
We're very happy with our efficacy. I'm going to talk a little bit about these results, but the most important thing to understand, or the first thing to understand, is that our courses are aligned to the Common European Framework of Reference. Some people call it CEFR or CEFR. And what the Common European Framework of Reference does is it gives you kind of 6 buckets of how well you know a language. There's really a 7th bucket, which is you don't know the language. So it's you don't know the language, then there's A1, A2, then there's B1, B2, C1, C2. So the A levels are the beginner levels, the B levels are the intermediate levels, and the C levels are the advanced ones. So C2, for example, is somebody that is just very, very highly proficient in a language. That's not even enough to just be a native speaker. Many native speakers of a language are actually level C1 and not C2. C2 is native speaker, and also you have a really good command of the language. The way I think about it is kind of Obama level speaking. It's just somebody that just speaks really, really well. The A levels, of course, are just beginners, but already if you speak a language to level A2, you can do a lot of things. So for example, you can ask for directions, you can have simple conversations, you can probably buy things, etc. At Duolingo, we try really hard to teach people to level B2. B2 is a level that is enough for people to get a knowledge job in that language. So for example, if you wanted to get a job at Duolingo, we speak English here inside the company, and your English level was B2, that would be perfectly fine. And that's true of most companies. Knowledge jobs, B2 is enough for knowledge jobs. And what we're trying to do with Duolingo is teach in all our languages to teach to level B2. We're not there yet for all our languages, but that is, the thing that...
Okay, so that was kind of the how to use Duolingo. What is the CFR? What is CFR alignment? And maybe you came to the video for this, which is how does it align to my DepEd curriculum? So I went through the curriculum documents of DepEd, and I put them in an Excel sheet. I put the skill ID here, the type here, the description here, and where to find it in Duolingo. So say this particular standard, let's choose something short, EN1G, IVF, J5, which is recognizing, describing words for people, objects, things, and places. And then you can find those words particularly in these 2 skills, bahay ko and tindahan. Okay, so this is the chart I made for grade 1 students, and I made one up to grade 3. So this would get someone Duolingo. It starts the course starts for someone with zero knowledge, and so it would be good for summer homework. If someone is struggling in a class and says, okay, your summer work is do all these skills and then come back to grade 2 with these skills done, and that's a very, very good way for students to catch up in summer breaks. So let's do an example. EN1G IIIB 1.4, recognize simple sentences. Well, we actually put it in these two skills. Particularly, it will allow them to recognize what a simple sentence is. So in Panimula 1, we have a lot of English sentences, which is basic. Subject, verb, object, I am a doctor, right? So a very simple sentence would be there. And there would be a Tagalog translation on the hint when they look at it. So let's go to an example. So this is a different standard, EN1G IVF J5, which is recognize describing words for people, objects, things, and places. So here, the Tagalog is ang mahabang lapis. And I wrote here, long pencil. And if we notice, it's missing the article, the definite article, the. So I purposely did this, I missed it out. And when the student presses next, they're gonna see, oh, the definite article isn't there. So they'll realize, oh, I need to learn the definite article. So those small grammar skills, those small grammar things would be there. And if you look at the standard, recognizing words for objects, lapis, pencil, describing, I guess here, length, that would be long, an adjective, right? So it does match the standards quite well. It's great practice and it's fun, right? Look, it's a funny pair. Okay, and I just like to show a little bit of the work we did, just to make sure that it's not just a game, right? It's not just a game, but there was a lot of curriculum thought that the team did. So Duolingo has a lot of their curriculum standards, and the Tagalog team, the English for Tagalog speakers course team said, okay, we really want to teach kids well. So this is an example of the bahay ko skill, and you'd see that a lot of the sentences will follow the structure. So the article a, and, the, plus adjective plus object, like the big shoe, right? The long pencil, right? An egg, so they can see the difference between a and an. So this is a very early skill, but we made sure that they get a lot of practice using the article plus an adjective plus an object. And then in lesson 2, we have a lot of sentences that have the article plus the object plus the irregular verb be plus adjective. So they'll be able to make sentences like the shoe is big, the pencil is long. And then in lesson 3, we have a lot of work on the determiners, that, this, these, those. So they get to practice that. And then lesson 4, and this is all just in the bahay ko skill. Lesson 4 would be a lot of practice on the possessives, simple possessives, my and your. So, by going through this skill, they're actually learning the things that we wrote in the description, and it would align to some things that the CFR expects for A1 learners, such as pronouns, simple personal possessives, and simple adjectives. So it would align to a lot of those skills when they actually go through this particular skill. Okay, so that's a lot. This is what we did for grade 2. And just wanted to focus on this, phonological awareness. So all the Duolingo skills come with speech practice for free, so they could use the app, record themselves, and it tells them if they've done it well or not. And again, so particular things, and this would be about 30% of what has to be covered, and it's a very good review over summer, about 30-40%, and there's a lot of skills that can be practiced, and the kids would have fun, and they come back, grade 3, and they'll really know a lot more English skills by having used the app. And then this is the last one. I did it for grade 3, so this would be all the skills there, and you could just pause it anytime. So even something like simple future tense, we have 3 units on it. Petsa, which is focused on dates, but it's also, I think, using going to plus verb, and then plano, I think it uses the will be, and then plano to is a mix, so they get to see, okay, sometimes you use going to, sometimes we use will be. The cuenta skills have a lot of practice on the irregular past tense verbs. So there was a lot of there was a lot of thought put in and really input, so that we spent time. The Tagalog team, the English for Tagalog speakers course team, we identified how it fits in to make it easier for the teachers. If a student is struggling in a particular thing, for example, plurals, you could just say, oh, why don't you use the skill pamilya? Just press it on the app, and then you'll get practice using the plural form of regular nouns, right? So that's pretty cool. I think that's the end of the video. So thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer all of them. So thank you very much, and I hope will really help the Filipino learner become more competitive. I'd really like to end with a story of something that happened at Capital One. It's a IT-BPM center, about 5-minute drive from where I am. They basically took orphans from the Tuloy Center, and they said, okay, we're gonna teach you English for 6 months and see if we can hire you. And after that, they had an initial cohort of about 20 kids. Every single kid that finished that course got hired, not in a minimum wage position, but in a position that paid way above minimum wage and it had benefits. And you ask those people, what are they doing with that spare money? And they're saying they're sending their family through school. So English does have, in our country especially, the ability to change lives and get people meaningful work that really makes a difference in their families. So I really hope, and big thank you to Duolingo for doing this, but I really hope that by teaching our kids, and this is all fun, but one day I do hope it will change their lives. So thank you.